already done that. Oh, there it says live and it's got seconds. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. You don't know this at home, but this is about the third time I've tried to get this going. Say good morning again. For real, okay. Okay, well, then you all at home, this is the best part then. So anyway, Matthew chapter 7 in the Sermon on the Mount, we come to verse 12. He says, "In everything do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets." What would, if you just had to capture it right there, how many of us treat other people the way we would like them to treat us? And there's a lot to, you've heard this, we've grown up hearing about this, and I'm going to pursue that more on another day, but the words that come after this were really kind of challenging for me my whole life. He says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it." I don't know if you ever heard the story about you think you're having a bad day. This poor fellow got lost out in the desert, and his vehicle breaks down, and he's out walking, and he's getting thirstier and thirstier. And he's saying, "I'm not so sure I'm going to make it." And he's just wandering through the desert, and all of a sudden he looks up ahead, and there's this little table, and there's a man sitting at this little table, and he walks up to this little table, and the gentleman looks up and he says, "Yes, can I help you?" And he said, I need some water. I need a drink." "So I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have any water, but I'll sell you a tie." He goes, "What?" He says, "Yeah, I'm selling ties. Would you like to buy a tie?" He said, No, you understand. I'm about to die here from thirst. I need some water." He said, "I'm so sorry. I don't have any water for you." He said, "But I'll tell you what. You see that hill? If you go to that hill about 3 miles, you'll come to a really nice restaurant, and they'll give you all the water you need." He said, "Well, okay, it's kind of strange, but thank you very much." And so he pulled himself together, and he hiked on over that hill, and about 3 hours later, he's coming back over the hill, and he comes up to that little table. The man is sitting there, and he says, "Well, why'd you come back here?" And he said, "They wouldn't serve me without a tie." That sink in, think about it. Have you ever had a day that was that like that? Thank you. Have you ever had a day like that where it's like, this can't get any worse, this can't become any hard? Why does life have to be so hard? Why are things the way the way they are? And sometimes I think we just live our lives frustrated. There's this very large old dead tree on my corner. It's technically on county land, and the main part of the tree fell into my yard. And so I called up the highway department, and the lovely lady took all my information, and then I don't hear anything. And so a few days later, I call up again. And it's, "Who are you? What's your name? What's your phone number?" And I explain, it's a county tree, it's fallen on my property. What do I do? She says, "Well, give me your information and we'll check it out." And I'm thinking, she's not going to check it out. Is the plan that, and my guess is that they're so overworked that if they ignore a lot of these calls, they'll just sort of take care of themselves. And I'm going, do I pursue it or just take care of it myself? And I'm thinking, is that like a normal day? Is life frustrating? Is it hard? And then I come and I want to hear what Jesus has for my life. And he says, "Oh, by the way, while you're trying to be loving and caring to the world, the way is going to be narrow. It's the little gate. It's not the big one. It's the little one you're looking for." Well, what am I signing up for here? I mean, isn't life hard enough? How well do we do with living our lives anyway? I looked up some really interesting information the other day. What percent of our population in this country lives a completely sedentary lifestyle? No physical activity of any kind. Can I hear a guess? 30%. Just about 1/3 of our population basically does not move. What percent of our population meets exercise guidelines, which are really quite doable? About 1/3 of the population. What percent of the people in this country exercise 30 minutes every day? 5%. There's your 5%, 30 minutes a day. What percent of our population doesn't get enough sleep? On a good day. They said 1/3, and I can't believe it's not more than 1/3. My problem is I've spent so much time working in colleges where nobody gets enough sleep. I would have guessed 80, 90%. So we're not exercising, we're not sleeping enough. The percent of high school students that eat the recommended amount of fruit, and I just went silent there. Think it was a battery thing? Could be. Hello? Goodbye. I'll have to pull out my teacher voice. And the percent of high school students get their recommendation of fruit each day? 9%. That's under 1 out of 10 get as much fruit as they should have each day. What percent of high school students get the 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day recommended? There's your 2%. 2%. What percent of adults are getting their 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day? 9.3. Not even 1 out of 10 are getting the vegetables that you need. Do we read? It shows that if you read for 20 minutes a day, reading is like the best exercise for your mind, for your brain. It's amazing what reading does for your brain. 15 to 44-year-olds read less than 10 minutes a day. Read less than 10 minutes a day. And then what is the kind of material that we do read when we do? On average, how many hours of leisure time do we have? The average U.S. citizen has how much leisure time each day? 5 hours. Were you going to say 4 hours? 5 hours of leisure today. You think we'd get a few minutes of there to chop up a carrot or a piece of celery or something, right? And I can't help when I think about, well, how about the people that in our population that votes, that is politically active? 55% will vote. That's barely over half. So about half our population isn't doing anything when it comes to political activity. This last presidential election was the highest voter turnout in history, and was still only just under 67% of the population. The percent of people that read their Bible every day, 11%. That was higher than I thought it was going to be. How about the percent of people that have read the Bible through from beginning to end?
1.
I would have guessed something like that. It turns out 20% of people have read through the Bible like one time. I can't even include myself on that one. If you come to Bible study, you'll know why I can't. Why can I not? Because I skip the genealogies. So my point of this is that if you look at the statistics on this, life is hard and frustrating. and very challenging. To me, it's also kind of confusing as to why we choose to do what we do and not do the things we. There's so many things that are so good for us that we do not do. And I could really go on from here, but just to make that point, and then we come to Jesus looking for help in all this, and he says right up front, this is going to be difficult. Take the narrow gate. Everybody wants the wide one. We want to take the easy road. I remember when I was in seminary, we were talking about how we were going to, all be famous preachers and have the biggest church and everything. And what was it going to take to get all the people in? And we would talk about, so-and-so really has a huge church. So-and-so has a really huge church. And everybody kept saying, well, what are they doing? And somebody pointed out one time, the assumption is, if you're getting more people than anybody else, you must be doing it right. And then one of our teachers pointed out, you do realize that the largest church in the world is really a Muslim church. They're bringing in more people than anybody. Does that make them more right than we are? Could it be that the closer you follow Jesus, the fewer people that are going to sign up? Could it be that if you offer a very wide road, a very wide gate, you're going to get more people? Remember what happens to Jesus in his ministry? When he starts out, there were all these people that were on board. And what happens every step along the way? Actually, it really picks up as they come to Calvary. And then what happens? All of a sudden, the gate got kind of small. And they lost almost everybody. I remember thinking about that. That kind of affected me when I was a child. I grew up, I told you, in a very large church in early elementary school. I remember going to Sunday school, and all these kids would have our assembly. Then we'd break up into little classrooms. And let's say I was in the 3rd grade, there would have been 2 classes of 3rd grade boys. That's how many kids we had. Each grade would have like 4 classes for, 2 for the boys, 2 for the girls. And I remember being surrounded. I remember going to Sunday school thinking, I hope I get in a class where my friends are. That's how many kids there were. And then when I got to about junior high, there was only 1 class for the boys and 1 for the girls. And then even fewer in high school. And then by the time we got to the end of high school, they were together to have a class. And even then I remember thinking at times, gosh, there were so many of us when I was little, and we just keep losing them along the way. Why is that? And why am I still here? I thought, is it too hard? Do they not want to be a part of this because of what Jesus is asking us to do? I just remember being confused by that and wondering why it was we seem to be losing people all along. Statistically, though, people will come back. Usually what happens? Well, sometimes when there's a crisis, but there's another thing that happens in people's lives that will bring them back to church anyway. Children, when they start having children, they go, "Oh yeah, that's right." There's somehow that's a part of my life, and I didn't really know what we talk about hard. I know I've told you about when I finished college. And I immediately went to seminary, Southern Seminary, Louisville, Kentucky, and it was a summer class, which was a big mistake. Don't ever take class in the summer here, in the summertime. It's too much, too fast. And I ended up taking the hardest class I would ever take. And I've got like 100 years of college in me. Some of us are slower than others. I mean, I've had more classes than I can count. Easily the most difficult course I ever took was the first one in seminary. And I remember after about 2 weeks in, I'm thinking, I can't do this. I was past this is hard. I remember thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this. And I was confused. I wanted this more than anything. I was never more excited about anything in my life than being at seminary. And all I could think of is, I can't do this. It's too hard. And I shared it with one of my friends who had been at seminary already been there for like a year or two. And he understood. See, my thought was, this is all going to be like this. I can't do this. And he said, no, you don't understand. This is like the hardest class you'll ever take. You'll never have to do this ever again. And you're doing it in the summertime, which was a big mistake. Anyway, he really encouraged me, and it really made a difference. I was really thinking, I just need to go home and never come back. But my friend encouraged me, and he said, you can get through this. And you've learned what? Don't ever take a summer class again. And you'll find out from others that have taken classes which ones are real bears and which ones are going to be a lot easier to take. And it really made a difference for my friend to tell me this. I was pastor of a church, and I've told you aspects of this story before, and I finally decided enough was enough, and I said, I'm moving on. And it's always difficult leaving a church, especially when you invest yourself in this church with all the people there. And I'd shared with the church, and things were kind of winding up. And this one gentleman came to me, really nice fella, and he said, God has something better for you than this. Anybody ever tell you that? When some part of your life was coming to an end, and they said, God has something better for you than this. He said, I know it's hard to leave because we love you and you love us, and this has been a wonderful time, but God has taken you somewhere else, and it's going to be better than this. And it really meant so much to me to hear that from somebody who knew me, knew what I was going through to be there, the challenges and the frustrations, along with the joys and everything. And there have been other people in my life that at a very critical time said, I know the road is narrow, the gate is small, and you're not sure you're going to make it. And I think about the people I have known, whether they were preachers, teachers, or whatever, and their job was telling me what was wrong. You're not doing this right. You're not doing that well enough. Could you please fix that? Their job was looking for problems, and that's all you ever heard. I've known people in my life that I've known for decades and had never heard them say a supportive word to another person. Not one time. Hang in there. You can do this. You've got the gifts. You've got the abilities. I can see it. And I know you look frustrated. You look like it's more than you can handle. But I want you to know that there is help here. I've known people that have never said, I believe in you. Even though you look around and you see people falling by the wayside, I know you've got what it takes to continue on this journey. Do you have people in your life that do that? There ever been a time in your life where you just wanted to give up and you looked around, Lord, this would be a really good time to find one person that still believes in me. They've never, ever shared a word of support. I've always, you think about, I reference it so much because when the Hebrew people came out of Egypt and God says, okay, I'm inviting you to begin a journey to the promised land, eternity with me. And it takes them how long? You can walk it in a couple days. It took them 40 years. It turns out that journey was more difficult and challenging than they ever dreamed possible. And all along the way, what happens? They lose a few. Lose a few here, they lose a few there. And finally, when they get to the promised land, nobody gets in. Joshua, they have to bring in a whole new generation. Could it be that of all the things that this world asks of me, it doesn't begin to compare what Jesus is asking for? And if we really could see on the front of the pamphlet all that we have to become, how many of us would go, I don't stand a chance. Why should I even begin this journey? And all those people following Jesus in his ministry, and they finally come to the cross, and they all run and scatter, going, I don't recall signing up for this. And in his own words, Jesus says, I've been trying to get you to see this vision since day one. And then at the resurrection, and he appears with his disciples, and what does he do? Like people in my life that have scolded me over and over again? No, he doesn't. He says, let's try this again. You can do this. You can do this. I know you are so ashamed of some of the things that you have done, because I know them more than you do. But I want you to know that I believe in you, and I will never leave you nor forsake you. To me, that's a message worth hanging on and tightly. And by the grace of God, I make it through that narrow gate. It'll be because of him. When was the last time you encouraged someone in their faith walk? It might be that one of the most wonderful things that we will do this week is to find someone who's struggling and let them know that we believe in them. And if I can believe in you, I know that God does. Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning admitting that sometimes this world is just more than we can bear. I tell people all the time, stop watching the news. It's just too much. But Father, you have always been there. And you've told us since day one that you are challenging us more than this world ever will. But we don't go through this journey alone. It is with you, and it is with your love. And for that we thank you in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. I invite you, if you would, to turn with me in your blue book to number 244, The Haven of Rest. I'd like for us to sing the first verse and chorus as we finish our service. The Haven of Rest, 244 in the blue hymnal. As I say goodbye to everybody at home, have a great Lord's Day and a wonderful week. Bye.